Hello, and welcome back to our fourth and final part of the Vanessa saga. So I wanted to jump in and give you just a little bit of a recap before we get into the session itself. What Vanessa came to me for is she was struggling with ADHD type symptoms. What revealed itself was trauma from the past, unprocessed things that were showing up, where she was used to narcissistic, abusive relationships. And now that she's in the healthiest relationship she's ever been in, those words, now she herself is the one getting in the way, self-sabotaging her happiness. She has the life she's always dreamt of, living in the Pacific Northwest with a partner, engaged to be married, and yet for some reason, she cannot seem to follow through on the things that are good for her. Yet in the past, when there was emergency type situations, when it was kids, when it's friends, when it's family, she's been the one that's always been there. She's been that workhorse that's never had a man taking care of her. She even knows how to fix vehicles and change oil and do everything that we typically would think of as men doing. And so it's easy for her to give, but not to receive, and definitely not to give to herself. And so without these fires that need to be put out, she's finding herself in a place of inaction. She's finding herself stuck. Now that she has this more peaceful life, it's like, no. We need some drama. We need something to be wrong. Waiting for the other shoe to drop, and maybe even you could say being more comfortable in that state of shoes dropping, putting out fires, emergency drama. And since it's not there, she doesn't have the motivation to get herself to do the things that she needs to do. There were quite a few things that came out in the previous parts of the session, which you can go back and look and see a type of honesty with herself about how she's hiding, holding back, morphing and shaping herself for who other people need her to be versus who she wants to be in the world, her dreams, and not fanning the fires of her dreams, instead being that person that's taking care of everyone else. You see her going into those unconscious moments of like spinning things, this discomfort, like, but they need me, Who would I be if they don't need me? And you might relate to that. If you have any people-pleasing and perfectionistic tendencies, this is quite common. What is familiar is being what other people need you to be for them and not knowing yourself. And then when you do start to know yourself and wanting to spend time for yourself, or having people show up in reciprocity, and those things don't happen, then there's frustration, there's resentment. We'll see that come up as well. It's a push and pull between, but I want to, but I don't. I want to show up. I want to be a good friend. I want to be needed. I want to be useful, but I'm resentful of it because it takes so much out of me, and I'm abandoning me, and it's pulling from me, and that effort and energy isn't being reciprocated. This creates this push and pull, or this knot. These two parts pulling, and that's created a knot or multiple knots around that. And what we're doing is we're untying those knots so then she can choose. She can choose from true choice rather than false choice. And that's what we see going about in this session. Enjoy. What if a friend calls you in distress and they need your help right now, and you're about to go out and do something for yourself? What are you gonna do?
That literally just happened a few days ago.
Of course it did. Of course.
It was like one person after the other. There was a freaking revolving door.
All these people need you.
But you are about to do something that you need for yourself.
I'm
What
sure
are you
that
going to do?
block, I'm sure that block loved that day.
My the best practice in a situation like that, something I would tell someone else to do, is to check in, make sure that this isn't a life or death situation. Is this a real, how desperate is this? I can't give you my full attention right now. Can we talk about it at a certain time tomorrow or a certain time later today?
What if you don't have the time later today or tomorrow? What if you really don't have the time for a week?
Watch how she tries to get out of this, and I come back and make her answer that question.
That wouldn't
Make her
feel good.
squirm. Watch how I don't let her do that.
I don't know. My first idea was I would talk to them on my way to the thing. I've done that.
What if you couldn't talk to them for a week? What if you couldn't put that fire out for them because you're tending to your own?
I have also handled that, but I handled it in sort of a passive aggressive way.
How'd that work for you?
It worked. It definitely worked. Because I just simply did not have the spoons. I was too much into my own stuff and had too much going on. I did not have the mental ability to get past my own, my own nose at that point. And so I sort of dodge messages, not answer phone calls.
More avoiding behavior. We get to see the extent of
answer a few days later. So
rather than being straightforward.
When you did those
boundaries.
Things, what happened? Were they okay?
Your crisis was okay, but then a few people, they would come back and talk about how awful this particular day was and how, no one was available for them and they couldn't get anyone to help them. And I felt bad because I was one of those people, but I also knew that I couldn't, I was not going to be helpful for them.
And then what happened for them?
I mean, they went on, life went on, they were fine.
They were fine? Without you? Without you dropping everything?
Can you imagine?
A part of this personality is the secondary gain of why we continue to put ourselves last and put everyone first and drop everything, even though we feel resentful because we want to be kind and we don't want to be selfish. The secondary gain is I'm needed. I get value out of being needed. I get validated because they need me. And so we'll ignore that fire inside that's resentful, that's angry, that feels taken advantage of, used. Well, they don't ever do it for me. You'll see that come up later. It's like, yeah, I get angry and resentful because whenever I need this person or these people, they're not there for me. More than likely, they don't know how to be there. Or what's worse is they don't want to. They just don't want to deal with it. But then we continue to be there for them. If they can do it, why can't I? It's even if I don't have anything else going on, it's like I don't feel like it. I don't want to is enough of a reason to say no. And maybe it'll be a week before we get back to them. I'm sure you're going to find support, resources. You're going to figure it out on your own. You'll find those things without me. And sometimes it's just a no. Like I had to go through that. I was the go-to person. I was the healer. And I had to say, no, I cannot continue to play this role for everyone all the time. Whenever there's a breakup, whenever there's some sort of something, I've got to talk to Lorraine. I got to be a good friend. But I was the one playing that role. And then I needed to prioritize me and say, I can't be that all the time for every person. It can be a fine line to walk, and it's a dance, and we learn as we go what means like being a good friend and kind, and what means being respectful of my own energy, because we all have a limited amount of resources, of time, of energy. If I have had a long day and you need to vent and talk and get things off of your chest, but I don't really want to do that, I just want to caretake myself, then I'm abandoning myself in order to be there for you. And you could call that a good friend, but if I'm doing that all the time and it's not being reciprocated in return, then that's when things are off balance. That's when that resentment, that anger, and so many other things come up. Those are all things that need to be looked at, tended to, and adjusted. So she's here in the middle of that question right now, considering and weighing all of this. It's all being done on the unconscious level. Even though we're not hearing everything come through in her words, you can see that processing going on. You can see the unconscious mind bebopping all over the place, being like, well, if I do this, if I do this, if I do then this, and this, and this, and this, all of that's happening at lightning fast speed.
How is that possible?
How is it possible? That would mean she wouldn't be needed. And that look that you saw, it's like, oh, that would mean they don't need me. How much of how I'm showing up for people is because I want to feel needed and valuable?
I do tend to put an emphasis on certain things. Our egos can sometimes come through
So that's your ego?
looking very altruistic.
Maybe you're really just an asshole.
Egotistical bitch.
We're going to get into stuff around ego that may or may not have been needed.
People
but
thought you were an egotistical, selfish asshole.
But it's a path.
That wouldn't be great. It's hard to trust an egotistical asshole.
Is it?
I wouldn't. Well,
Do you have any egotistical assholes that people like and trust?
I'm sure there are millions of them. Anyone selling anything, people who are in sports, people who are in music, blah, blah, blah. They look very trustworthy. They put on that face, but I'm sure in the background they're egotistical assholes because they have to feel important,
Think of like Simon Cowell and Chef Ramsay.
I wouldn't normally go this direction of interjecting my own thoughts and kind of agenda in here, but that's what was intuitively coming up. Trust your intuition.
Those are some big egotistical assholes.
Why do you imagine people love them? And even trust them?
Because they command it.
You command it?
I still don't know what Simon Cowell does outside of sitting in front of a stage in a creepy white t-shirt telling people they're good or they're not good. They command that respect. They command to be listened to. They bring that to the table themselves. No one made the table for them.
So it sounds like there's benefits to being an egotistical asshole.
But is it earned? I don't know that it's earned. I mean, the ego isn't a bad thing. There's nothing bad innately about ego. in my opinion, in order to have a sense of I'm important because I can do this, and this is why you should listen to me. This is my power. I believe in myself because is very ego fueled. And those things where you're owning your power in something isn't necessarily a bad use of the ego. You're using the ego because you're just, you're not important. What I say is important. I'm the most important, blah, blah, blah. That's where, it gets really toxic.
What about being selfish?
Being selfish can be, it's to be a slippery slope, isn't it? Because we're told to be, in order to be a good mother, you have to be selfish and take care of yourself first. Put the mask on yourself first. It's okay to be selfish until you're so selfish that you don't give a damn anymore. Others' stuff is unimportant, absolutely irrelevant. And
then it's just you.
And it's just you. And that's where the table tilts on the asshole part.
Notice I didn't go into teaching mode around the ego. I could have.
What's good about being an asshole?
I could have, but she ended up filling that in
I suppose
herself.
it's a fast track,
And that's always
instead of working so hard to gain a following or to prove to yourself to people, you just walk right in and tell people what you want them to believe. I want you to believe this way. I want you to believe I'm the best thing ever. And I'm going to command a presence, and I'm going to talk loud, and I'm going to be as really cool and quirky and memorable as possible. And you're going to remember this, and you're going to love me, and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, you can definitely be a really cool asshole. And
yes, people would know what they're getting, huh?
Yeah. I mean, you come in, but you don't have, you're not really falling into alignment. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Can you believe this person? Charismatically bringing people into your side and casting out the old guard. And yeah, it's a pretty fast way to get yourself into the places you want. I prefer a more ethical means of making that transition.
I know.
So the ego's not always bad. There's nothing wrong with ego.
Notice that right after that, she got quiet, she kind of tranced, and then she took that big breath and then went back to the ego. So she's figuring things out, resolving it, and now she's finding another resource of something she needs to know for herself.
And as long as you keep it in balance.
How does that work for you? How does that relate?
I feel like in my outside life, I do a good job of that.
Again, outside life, inside life.
And when I don't, I can feel the imbalance and it hurts, or at least I can perceive the imbalance and it hurts. I can definitely see how I'm maybe more lacking in ego than anything.
Isn't that interesting? She says this thing about outside life, inside life again, which she did earlier. Isn't it interesting that we would handle things differently in our outside life than in our inside life? I'm glad to see that we came back to that, and we'll see if we're getting some resolution there through this ego talk of those inside and outside being more integrated.
How are you lacking in ego?
Well, I mean, in my practices of late and over the past several years, I have just been a subject matter expert in how to fuck around, how to mess shit up. how to sit around and not take care of your stuff. And if ego is the higher, more elevated part of self, I may be misdefining ego, but then I am certainly not working in that realm right now. But being, like we said before, very selfish in my practices of not taking care of things and thusly negatively impacting other people and myself. And not caring. Well, caring desperately, but not desperately enough to change.
It sounds like you're caring about things that you don't care about.
I don't know.
Is that trance?
If it's in the situation of like, the friend calls in crisis, can I pull myself out of the ashes for that? Yes, I can. Is that the most important thing happening in my life? Absolutely not. Do I resent it? I even resent it sometimes.
There's that resentment I talked about. The inequity.
Because I've tried and those same people aren't necessarily there for me. And that feels lopsided. As far as caring about things I don't care about, I mean, I care about things that are not getting done. I don't not care about them. I don't know, maybe I'm just growing numb to the effects of it, Like, well, I'm just gonna sit on the couch for another day. I'm gonna do just enough to make it look like I've done some things. And to feel better about myself, I'll make a little better of a dinner. And, do other things to take care of my partner when I didn't do the things I should have been doing to take care of us together.
Again, the
Take care of them.
appearances.
Take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
I keep wondering, where's Vanessa in all of this?
Vanessa's waiting. She's, like I said, I keep envisioning, remembering me from 2013, 2014, and 15. Getting the kids together, but even in the middle of juggling all this stuff with the kids, I was, hiking stuff, climbing stuff, building trails. I was, kayaking, going to concerts with my friends, and
What's stopping you from doing things like that now?
lack of energy, complete lack of energy.
We know that's just a symptom.
Our routines and our schedules are, it's not stopping me from doing it. Well, to a degree. When I was working at night, that was hindering a lot of things because I would sleep during the day.
That makes sense.
Did that throw you off?
It did.
So what do you need?
It's an important question. What does she need? She was adapting. She was adapting.
Friends.
See?
I don't have like anyone I can call on here. Like there have been things to do or time that I've had alone. And I'm like, it'd be cool to just pick up the phone and say, hey, I want to go hit this restaurant. Can you go? Or hey, this thing's happening this weekend. Can you go? And I don't really have anyone I can do those things with. I don't have, haven't made those connections yet. So friends, I need people I can reach out to, be my energetic partner in things. I need structure. The list will be the first part of my structure. I need organization. The physical clutter in this house is so mentally damaging for me. Living in clutter is just so, I mean, my house used to look like I didn't own anything because I didn't want stuff, encroaching on me. And
where did all this stuff come from?
Amazon. Amazon.
The things that need to be done.
So we're now starting to get clear about things that have become out of balance, things that she needs, things that she has let go for the sake of the relationship, or for the sake of something, thinking that there's going to be a gain when there's not. And so these are those tools that she was looking for. It's like, oh, let me get my life back in order to support me in my mental fitness.
Is it those things not being done? Like the mess, the clutter, is it that bothers you, or the idea that it should be different that bothers you?
Yeah, sometimes it's just the idea.
And the reason I say that is that these masses and this clutter does not bother Nat. Nat will literally come home, strip their clothes off, create a puddle, and walk out of it. And that puddle will sit there until they decide it's time to do laundry. I mean, it means nothing to them that there's a pile of coats in the corner.
We're seeing the differences.
This does not bother them at all. As a matter of fact, whenever I did clean up and kind of cleared space before Tiffany got here, I think they made them kind of nervous. It was, to me, it's the cleanness and the openness brings peace and quiet to me.
And with her being so empathetic and compassionate and quick to caretake and give, she's very kind and loving and nurturing. Can you see how it opens up these opportunities to let her own needs drift to the wayside? And when enough of your needs drift to the wayside, then it's contributing to these results that she's having right now of feeling stuck.
And they need to have loud and things processing in order to keep them calm. So we have two different sides of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. So there's the clutter, the fact that it exists, and the fact that I'm not doing anything about it. Part of the reason I don't do anything about it is because, that feeling as a mother, I pick something up and 2 seconds later, something else is landing in its spot.
Is it your clutter?
Constant.
Is it your clutter?
Some of it is. Okay. And some of it is, a large amount of it's not. And I'm trying to sort of organize our way through it. If I create a rule around where something goes, typically that rule is understood. Except for the people puddles. I don't understand why the clothes puddles have to happen. But
so what do you need?
I need structure. I mean, that's definitely a big symptom of the structure. I need structure to my time.
What do you need
from I need structure to my time. I need structure to my environment.
I asked, what do you need from Nat? And I'm going to repeat that question again. This is a really important question. But when you're in a new partnership, particularly if you've moved in together and then they've also moved to another part of the country where she doesn't have a support system in place. And so not only are they newly living together and getting to understand how each other are, and they both have different things that make them feel comfortable, different needs. Those are things they need to sort through. And it sounds like she's been the one acquiescing and sacrificing. And just like the talk we had earlier about the checklist, and what if Nat wants you to do things a certain way, instead of acquiescing, she's going to be like, no, like, I've got this, I know what I need. And so now we're getting clear on other things that she needs. And it doesn't make one person right or one person wrong. It doesn't mean one person's going to get their way and the other person is acquiescing all the time. It's opening up dialogues of communication to come up with solutions together that work for both of you. And that may not happen in every area. And so then you ask, who is this more important to, right? Is this, in this issue where we don't meet eye to eye, is it more important to you or more important to me to win in this instance? And if it's always the one person that's winning, you want to look at that. We see that there's just a lot of things that haven't really been addressed. She's been doing, that nice girl thing. Nice guys do that too, where it's like, well, I want to be nice. And so I'm just going to let it go and not make it a big deal. But she's starting to see how big of a deal some of these things are. Often that can be scary because it's like, oh, well, now I'm changing the rules. If they're not going to like it, I've invested too much. So I should just keep on letting this slide, letting this go, and just make myself okay with it and find some other way to be okay with it. If you're watching this, you're probably thinking, yeah, that's not going to work here. Like, she needs this and it is important. Fortunately, she has a very supportive partner that, of course, is going to understand. The issue here is that it just hasn't been addressed in that powerful way where she's very clear, you know what, I actually really need this. Since this time, there has been organization systems put in place so that things have their places and it's not just spread around. That's been another solution that has worked for her, that she's followed through on, that's given her more peace of mind.
Structure to my routines. I could be getting out and meeting more people, but I don't.
What do you
because of the energy.
What do you need from Nat that you're not saying?
There's that question again that she didn't heard. That important question.
One thing that I have put off discussing, because to me it's almost absurd in certain ways, is that I need to be on top in our dynamic again. I need to be, I want a partnership first and foremost. I want us working together in our lives. But as far as the structure of our dynamic, I feel like because I've been so weak and so down and so inoperable, they've really stepped up a lot and they've had to. And I really need to be that back on top again. I want for us to revisit
Why do you need that?
To feel normal, to feel right. Because in order for them taking care of me and them, being.
So it doesn't feel right to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Sometimes just repeating.
Is that what this is all about?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right. I'm supposed to be taking care of them. I'm the caretaker. I am the dominant in this situation. I'm supposed to be taking care of them.
How would you really want?
I would feel better than this does.
That's what's comfortable and familiar, but is that what you really want?
No, in certain ways, I love when they take care of me, and they want to. Nat wants to take care of me in certain ways. They like that I can be vulnerable and they can step in and make me feel good. And I don't dislike it, I like it too. But I've lost, it's gone too far the other direction. It's gone toward and I was explaining just this situation actually recently to them, yesterday. It's one thing for them to go make me my coffee, or to bring me a blanket, or to even sing me a song and do a little dance or something like that to make me happy, versus paying my bills, reminding me for the 100th time to take the shower or to start getting ready so we can not be late to the party. It's totally different for them to have to manage me, feeling taken care of and loved and adored and, put on this pedestal is not the same as being, freaking managed because you're just flatlined. You're not taking care of yourself at all. It's a different. For them to make me dinner versus, all the other things it's definitely tilted way too far to the wrong side. I need to be on top again. I need to feel as though I'm still the dominant, that I'm still the one who's in charge.
Powerful, Vanessa.
You have some power.
Mm-hmm.
Powerful. That you have control. And that you can handle.
Mm-hmm. So I want that feeling back. But I've not been comfortable talking about that because of how unpowerful I've been. It doesn't make sense for me to ask for this back when I'm not displaying that I can even marginally perform with that.
How do you go about doing that?
Doing the shit? Displaying that I can marginally perform it? That would be a big jumping off point.
How are you feeling about the problem now?
No, it's not feeling as heavy.
It's lighter.
A little lighter. It's feeling expansive, but it's not feeling as heavy.
Expansive is good.
Where do you feel that lightness and expansiveness?
I guess here, my chest, I can breathe.
Are you willing to invite in more of that light, expansive feeling in your chest?
Yes, definitely.
Could you do it now?
I think so.
This is a little bit guided here. This is the closest I get to guiding anything.
Yes.
Can you welcome even more?
Definitely.
And welcome in even more. And more.
So this is some somatic work, connecting her with her body.
I'm oddly aware of the blood flowing through my jugular. I find that strange.
So because that came up for her, I'm gonna focus in on that, and I'll ask about it later. When I speed this part up, this actually took longer than what you're seeing. Lots of empty space.
Energy flow.
Having a lot of visions of me doing the next steps and the things I plan on doing after we're finished. And then another one is just sort of a kinetic image, just the energy just constantly going.
Energy constantly going.
Mm-hmm.
The energy.
Notice I didn't tell her to think about those things. That's what came to her. I just guided her back to herself and to noticing, observing, not trying to make anything happen, but allowing. No guided imagery. I didn't tell her to envision those things. I didn't tell her to walk through a field, find a relaxing place in nature, none of that. Things that show up in shamanic work come up here in a bit, and I'll talk about that a little bit afterwards. And some natural EMDR stuff as well.
I don't know why, but the visions I'm getting are very nonsensical and distracting. I'm having to do a lot to push them away.
If you didn't.
I said, what if you didn't? It's hard to hear me in this part.
If you allow the vision.
What if you allow the vision?
It just feels like a waste of time.
Isn't that interesting?
What's happening with your jugular now?
Going back to the jugular, that somatic resource.
That's not drawing my attention anymore. Just this onslaught of random images.
Think through the images.
Encourage whatever's coming up to be there. As long as she's not going to her to-do list. Or
What are you feeling in your body right now?
I guess comfort. I'm just kind of limp. Feeling fairly peaceful.
This. Dare give up that fight. For you.
don't you dare give up that fight for you, I said. Notice how I'm regulating myself. You can see my breath. You know, my hand's there on my upper heart. It's not something I normally do, but it's something that happened then. The processing instructions, all of it. Keep going. Stick with it. I'm breathing, staying relaxed.
Getting closer.
And we
Getting closer.
regulate ourselves so that our clients can regulate. It starts with us as therapists.
What was that?
Last vision was very weird, but more striking than the others. It was in an elevator and was going to my floor. I was with other people and I had to go to different floors and they were on. And I went to the floor I was supposed to be on, but the elevator stopped between floors and the doors were open. And I was trying to like nudge the car to go a certain direction and then just started falling. And not only was I seeing it in front of me, but I was also seeing in my periphery, like lights, like as you're going past something really fast. And it just kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going. While the door is open and I'm bracing myself against the door. So it was interesting. And I had to stop the vision from happening because it was just still going. It's weird.
Kept going and going.
Mm-hmm.
Seemed pretty baked.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's fried.
Definitely.
She's fried. She's ready for bed.
I understand why then, well, maybe the nap is twofold. or the reasons a nap is important. One, because you're gonna need it.
Yeah, it's good to take a nap after sessions to
You ready for a nap?
keep processing.
Definitely.
So I pretty much wrap things up at this point. We already did a good amount of testing. I don't do any more. It would just be redundant to do at this point with where she's at. She's in a good place, ready to take those visions and all of those connections that the unconscious mind are making and just bring it into her sleep state, because then her conscious mind is completely out of the way and she can continue to make those connections. And so that elevator scene where it just kept going, it's seeing it forward and in her periphery, to me, that's a lot like a EMDR session. You're moving your eyes from periphery to periphery. It does work. It's not as effective. People that I come to have done EMDR. It doesn't work. This does. She just went to it naturally. And so it's, tapping into that periphery. And we naturally do this if we go for walks and we're able to look further distances. We have things coming by us like trees, cars, people. We're getting that peripheral vision being activated. And that has been, scientifically shown to have a lot of benefits, including focus, memory, concentration, executive functioning, eyesight even, and emotional, mental well-being. That's a really good thing to do. If you're having struggles, you can do some of those things on your own by going on those walks, having the things coming by your periphery. Don't look at the ground, be looking up. So that's the scientific stuff that's going on there in my interpretation with the elevator. I could have asked her more about it. We could have analyzed it. Like, how did you feel when that was happening? What does that mean to you? What do elevators mean to you? I could have gotten into that like you would with like a dream interpretation, analyzing, some of those symbols based on not what a pre-written book says about those symbols, but how it's coming through for her personally. At that point in the session, it just would have been redundant. It would have been too much. If that had happened earlier in the session, possibly would have explored that more, see what else is in there. It could have caused a spontaneous regression, but no, not something that I would do at this point. She just needs to sleep and just keep letting that processing happen. And as I said before, the processing happens during the session, but it's really happening after the session. Now, from a shamanic point of view, that vision with the elevator, when I've done shamanic work, one of the things that you do to start off your journey, maybe you're going to communicate with your spirit animal, and these tend to be the kind of like guided meditations. You're starting off by digging into the earth, going into the ground, and you're digging and you're digging and you're digging until you come to a tree or come out into a scene with a lake. There is this element in shamanic work where there is this, you just keep going and you just keep going and you just keep going, like in that elevator where she's like, I just had to make it stop. My first shamanic journey that I did to meet my masculine spirit animal with a really legit shaman, that happened with me. I was just like digging and not going anywhere, and I just stopped and just chilled out there in the earth and took a little nap. At a certain point said, okay, well, I'm going to direct and guide this. And that's happened in other ways in shamanic journeys as well. Again, that comes back to, I guess I get to choose. I guess I have some power and control in this as well. It's a collaboration and co-creation. Those were the things that came to mind for me with the elevator, that going down, and just keep on going. In your earth-based traditions, Native American, Mayan, Incan traditions, the snake is sacred because it goes into the earth. It's the one that goes into the shadows that we talked about, those shadowy places that we don't want to look, that we want to avoid, that we don't want people to see. But the snake does that. The snake can be scary. You know, the snake is the one that's going to confront you with things that maybe you don't want to address, acknowledge, or look at. And in Mexico, you've got these underground, cavernous, water-filled caverns, and they're called cenotes. Those cenotes are also very sacred because of that element of going into the earth, into the ground, because you have to go into the earth, into the ground, into the darkness, into the shadows, in order to then come up and ascend like the condor, that spiritual place where I'm soaring above my problems. I'm able to sit in that role of the observer, of the witness, where I'm not entrenched in the chaos of everything. I have that bird's eye view. I'm able to see the bigger picture rather than feeling engulfed with my problems. I can step back and see the trees through the forest. I can find the answers. I can find the way forward. I can see the patterns. All of this work that we did here, this is shamanic work. The difference is I'm here with you. I'm here in your head, making you make sense of it, asking you the right questions to lead you to the most powerful experience. Yeah, we just keep pulling that thread, peeling away the layers, however you want to look at it. As you saw in this session, we worked on multiple things, whatever came up. It's not like I had a list and said, let's look at executive function. Let's look at the anxiety. Let's look at the time management. No, we just went with where consciousness took us. That was really long. If you stuck through to the end, I hope you got a lot out of this. I hope that you learn a lot about yourself through this process, and also about this modality. Feel free to take what you've learned here and incorporate it into your practice. I'm really committed to up-leveling the coaching, hypnosis, healing world. And having watched this, maybe you have an understanding of how and why I'm doing that now. And my hope is that you've watched this and it makes sense and you get it. Why less is more. And how some very key things, very key questions, and some guiding principles and practices can get you these really profound results. Vanessa and I both hope that you learned a lot from her example. I will say that particularly in this fourth video, there's been a little bit more editing, keeping out things that are a little personal and less relevant to the therapy. And I do have another video that I'll post later where Vanessa gives a follow-up talking about all of the shifts and changes that had been happening in her life. So that one was in May, so 2-3 months after her session. We also had a little mini session that I did not record in between that first session and when she does the testimonial. I also have a second session to share and a third session along with all of the updates along the way, because we just got peeling away the layers. We went from the ADHD type symptomology to now she's making movement, she's making progress, and now money issues come up. And so we work through money issues. Things are changing in a lot of different ways when it comes to money, how she views money, how she receives money, how she's willing to work with money. So it's a completely different relationship, and I'll be posting that and the transformative results as I post them. Enjoy.